Please welcome our next presenter, Elsie Johnson from Zora's House.
Okay. Women of color will be the majority of women in the United States in the next 30 years, and we are ambitious as hell. We are 5 to 7% more likely to graduate college than men of color, starting businesses faster than any other group, and on average, 80% of women of color seek to be promoted in their careers. Yet in Central Ohio and nationwide, women of color have the lowest rates of home ownership. We have the lowest earnings of all year-round full-time workers. And regarding wealth, single black women own just 2 cents to every dollar compared to all single men, and single Latina women own only 8 cents. Right here in Franklin County, 1 in 4 black women live below the poverty line. There is a clear gap between the desire of women of color to lead and contribute and our actual outcomes. But at Zora's House, we're closing that gap. Zora's House is a cooperatively run co-working space and leadership incubator created to uplift and empower women of color leaders, entrepreneurs, and change agents. From our Sunday dinners to our writing circles to our Big Ideas Lab, we empower women of color, not just to pursue their own dreams, but to become leaders in their fields and communities with bigger voices to advocate for others. And our cooperative model means that members contribute directly to the leadership and governance of Zora's House, making us one of very few organizations created and led by the people who are actually being served. In the almost 2 years since we've launched, over 1,500 people across 5 states have visited our space and attended our programs. We hosted in 2017 the largest training of black birth workers in the Midwest, and we've run 4 women of color-owned markets, generating over $75,000 in revenue for local women of color artisans and entrepreneurs. And everything we've done so far, we've done with a small staff of volunteers. In fact, in my illustrious tenure as Zora's House founder and primary growth engine, I've maintained a full-time job and given birth twice. Our demand has outgrown our capacity to deliver. Our membership grew 30% in the last 6 months, and we successfully piloted 2 revenue-generating programs that we've not yet been able to launch. We're seeking an investment of $150,000 in order to hire 2 full-time staff to help lead and grow this work. With your investment, we will immediately launch our overnight residency and Sister Circle pilot programs and bring Zora's House to profitability in just 18 months, at which point our model will be self-sustaining and we can begin reinvesting into more expansive growth and additional programs. Our Columbus location is the first in what will be a national network of spaces created by and for women of color and centering our leadership. In every community where we operate, our goal is to create a generative pipeline of women of color leaders, entrepreneurs, and change agents. Women of color have the courage, the creativity, and the desire to change our world for the better. Let's help them do it. Thank you.
Will you talk a little bit about how you are measuring outcomes? So what does success look like?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. A lot of times people think that because we are a co-working space, we mainly support entrepreneurs, but in fact, we support all women of color that have something that they want to incubate or put into the world. So that could be a novel, that could be a business, and so in a lot of ways, we measure how much people are actually producing with the support that they get from Zora's House. We also measure how the relationships gained at Zora's House are actually helping to produce that support. But I think it is a challenge that we have not yet been able to fully tackle metrics because we haven't had the capacity, and also because with our philosophy, we do believe that women of color are meant to measure more than just what we're able to produce. And so trying to understand what is the empowerment of women of color really worth and how do you measure that is something that we continue to engage with on a regular basis.
I think you said that the residency program was what you were going to fund. Could you describe that and how it earns revenue for you?
Yeah, so we recently piloted an overnight residency program where women of color, writers, entrepreneurs, and activists can actually come stay at Zora's house on site for up to 5 days while they work to incubate a particular project or business. And so we changed the upstairs of Zora's house to actually be able to host people on site. And that program is a fee-for-service program. So folks actually pay to be able to come in and get the support and the programming to kind of surround their incubation of whatever it is they're working on.
Aside from the funding, what are the biggest challenges that you're up against in being successful?
I think one of the biggest things that we've had to do is be really nimble with thinking about what our model is going to be and how we incorporate the folks that we actually serve into the work that we're doing. So when we launched, we had the idea that we were going to be a co-working space. I was like, y'all, this is a co-working space. That's what's happening. And as people started coming through our space, we found that they were using it in different ways. The word co-working wasn't resonating with our target audience. So we started describing it as imagine your favorite coffee shop and your homegirl's house had a baby and that's Zora's house. But with that, we also had to start changing our revenue model and business model, and being nimble in that way has been challenging, but I think important for the work that we're doing.
What keeps you up at night? Do we have a question? What keeps you up at night?
The fact that I have an 8-week-old baby and literally the fact that I have an 8-week-old baby. That's about it right now.